Burnout comes from being brilliant for too long. And so a lot of times what happens is burnout happens not because we're weak, but because we're being brilliant for far too long and we're taxing our own systems. We're taxing our brain, we're taxing our body. If you only take one thing away from this conversation, I hope it's that you listen a little bit deeper to your body, to the messages your body is sending you. Whether that message is, hey, I have a headache, or my back hurts, or, my leg is stiff, that is your body talking to you. And if you don't pay attention, there's gonna be a penalty to pay. So what makes us different from everyone else is we start with a proper diagnosis. We use neuroscience-backed assessments to uncover a lot of the hidden patterns that are shaping your decisions, your stress response.
Welcome to the Feria TechCast. We'll bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today we are joined by Dr. Lizette Warner, a smart rewiring scientist and executive coach who helps senior leaders accelerate promotions, beat burnout, and make better decisions using neuroscience-backed strategies. A former chief science officer in healthcare, she now serves as COO at Trust and Leadership, where she developed her proven smart rewiring method after her own experience with burnout and corporate restructuring. Her work has been featured in Fast Company and TEDx, and she brings a powerful blend of scientific rigor and practical insights to leadership development. So, Dr. Lizette, welcome to the show.
Great. Ezekiel, thank you for having me. I'm super excited about the conversation we're about to have and the tips and tricks your audience is going to walk away with.
All right. Let's start at the beginning. Your title, the Smart Rewiring Scientist, what does it mean? And what was the pivotal moment in your career as a chief science officer that led you to develop this method?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. I, got my PhD from the Mayo Clinic in biomedical sciences, and I was working in corporate, right? When I did that, I was working in corporate before that, before I got my PhD, and I really didn't want to waste any time in trying to reestablish myself after I got my PhD. So I started working with a coach, and that was very pivotal and transformational for me. It helped me reach the goals that I wanted to reach. And it ultimately led me into my chief science officer role, but it also confirmed that there's something special about this coaching profession. So I ended up getting certified as a coach because I wanted to use the coaching techniques that were used on me in my team. And so I started coaching within the company, and that was really transformational for me and also for the clients. And I loved the results that my clients were getting. And so I started coaching more and more outside of the company. And I made the pivot to essentially, this is what I do. I work in coaching. And where my biomedical science degree came back into play was when in working with clients, I started to teach them about biomarkers and about their own nervous system. Because a lot of times what hinders us in burnout or in getting promotions isn't the lack of skill, it's more the lack of how do we address burnout and how do you recognize it? And so that is where a lot of my uh, training in biomedical sciences helped me and helped transition and help leaders, especially in the tech space. w- When you have the construct of, people understand biomarkers in terms of, your heart rate. That's a biomarker. It tells you something, right? But there are so many other biomarkers that we have that a lot of times we don't pay attention to. And so it's an indication, right? There are different biomarkers that are indications for people. And so that led me to bring all of my science background into the field of coaching to help people learn how to rewire themselves from the inside out so that the burnout is avoided. Promotions are a sure thing. So yeah, that's a little bit of my background.
Oh, well, that's a really interesting background. So, Lizette, you say that burnout isn't a personal flaw, but a system failure. So, what does that mean, especially in a high pressure, tech-driven environment?
Yeah. So here's what I mean when I say burnout is a it's really a system failure. Burnout comes from not not it comes from being brilliant for too long. So if we think about when we're in this tech space and there's so much moving, there's so much growth, there's a ton of, AI is coming at us, and the amount of technological growth that is happening right now is exponential. And our nervous system, so the human system, was not designed for exponential growth. And so a lot of times what happens is burnout happens, um, not because we're weak, but because we're being brilliant for far too long and we're taxing our own systems. We're taxing our brain, we're taxing our body, and in the end, that pays a penalty and it incurs a cost. And at some stage, we're going to have to pay that cost. So it's people find it interesting when I say, it's great to be brilliant, but we also have to pace that growth. So that could mean things like, taking a break, taking a pause, um, and allowing yourself to integrate the growth that's just happened, right? Allowing ourselves to recognize that there's a lot of fast moving pieces in the tech space, and it seems like it's coming at us very, very quickly. We need to regulate ourselves to that growth so that we don't burn out ourselves.
So tell us, for the scientists, engineers, and technical leaders in our audience, what are the early and often overlooked signs that they might be heading towards burnout or rusting out?
Yeah. So there are two forms of burnout. One, maybe we won't talk about it here. One's rusting out, but the other one is burnout, right? And oftentimes your body will speak. If I think back to myself, when I'm sitting too long, my legs will start to hurt, and oftentimes I kind of push through it. So it's anytime you're pushing through something, that can be a signal to you that, ooh, um, are you pushing yourself too hard for too long? Um, the other the other aspect of burnout, oftentimes, we're in the tech space because things are moving so quickly, we are always on, right? We're multitasking, we're checking email, we're answering this Slack or that ping or that message. And it's that it's that part of you that has trouble shutting off. So if you're having trouble going to sleep at night because you're still wound up, that can be a signal that you're running your battery too hard. The metaphor that I like to give, Ezekiel, especially, and this will resonate with your audience, is have you ever had your laptop and you've been working on your laptop and then all of a sudden it's kind of working slow because you haven't rebooted it?
Yeah.
Instead of, yeah. And instead of rebooting it, what do? We're just like, why are you taking so long? Like we're sitting there getting frustrated and angry at the laptop because it's not moving near as quickly, when in reality we know, okay, maybe cache is overflooded and maybe I just need to reboot that. And that's what happens to us. So it's that same sort of, where we could be running sluggish. Um, we keep adding more and more. And when in reality, what we need is that reboot. We need to take that break. And oftentimes we don't take that break until A, we're forced to, or B, we schedule that vacation. And then that's when we take the big break.
Well, that's fantastic. So, what are some of the most common misconceptions that high achieving professionals have about what it actually takes to get promoted?
Mm, yeah. So I think a lot of it's a great question. And I'll invite your audience to even bring to mind, what do you think? What do you think you need in order to get promoted? Because oftentimes we don't even think about it. We don't think proactively of what is it really that I need to get ahead. And oftentimes what ends up happening is people, especially high achievers, will default to, I have to do more. I have to prove myself. I have to get the MBA. I have to get the certification. I've got to get the LinkedIn learning. And I have to all of these have tos to add to my resume, right? That will demonstrate to someone that, hey, I have the capacity, I have the skills that are needed to operate at this next level. And I think that's the biggest misconception that's out there, when in reality, what you need in order to get ahead, in order to secure that promotion, is you have to be able to generate that trust with your team, with your leaders, with your boss, with your boss's boss. Like, you need to be seen, but you also like need to be seen doing what you're good at doing, but you also need to be seen that you are a leader at that level, not that you're doing the work at that level. That's also the other misconception. I see a lot of people, well, I haven't gotten the promotion yet, but I'm doing the job, right? I'm doing the job of the director, but I haven't gotten that role yet. Well, who's actually seeing that you're doing the job of at that director role? And oftentimes the other missing component is that we're not leading like a director. We're doing the job of the director, but we're not actually leading like a director. And that is more of an inside job. That's the inside work that we have to do on ourselves so that we can show up in the manner that everyone sees. Not only am I doing the job of the director, but I am in effect, radiating that I am worthy of that title and that role, not because of my certifications, but because of the way that I show up. And that showing up piece is really hard for people because, like I said, that's a lot of that is inside work that we have to do. That's where the smart rewiring comes in. There's a lot of internal work that we have to do so that it shows, so that you're radiating this externally to everyone else.
Wonderful. So, let's talk about smart rewiring. Can you walk us through one neuroscience backed strategy from smart rewiring that a listener could apply today to make better decisions under pressure?
Yeah. So in smart rewiring, the whole method behind smart rewiring first is to reveal and rewire. So we go straight to what I've been talking, it's an inside job, your operating system. I gave the analogy of the laptop. Think of you as having an operating system. So one of the first things that people do, what we do in TLC, is we use neuroscience-backed assessments because we don't guess. We don't do guesswork. We go straight to the source. We have neuroscience-backed assessments that uncover hidden patterns that shape your decision, your stress response, your leadership style. So outside of that, and we do that within the first 30 to 45 days, so we know precisely what's been blocking you. But something super actionable for your listeners is to reflect back on your day. This is super actionable. Reflect back on your day. When were you operating? When was your operating system at peak capacity? And I don't mean peak capacity meaning that you're overloaded, but when were you operating the best during the day? And reflect back on your day. What was going on that supported that you were in flow, you're operating at the best? Oftentimes we do not look back on our day to go, oh, like we maybe celebrate of, oh, wow, I finished this technical report, or I presented to the team, or we invented this new widget. We'll celebrate that, but we don't go back to go, okay, what was going on inside of me or around me that made that happen? And the opposite too, again, super, super actionable, is where did I feel off? Where did I feel off during my day? That can oftentimes paint a picture of what was going on. Were you running yourself too long without a break? Without rebooting your operating system? That can start to open someone's eyes of just recognizing where did I do my best work today? And what was going on there? And where did I not do my best work today? And also what was going on there? I think those are two meaty pieces. And I say they're meaty because if someone does not have the awareness of what it is that they're doing really well and what it is that they're struggling with, like their growth edges, if they don't have that awareness, that's the first place you need to start. Oftentimes people want, well, give me the hack or whatever. That is the hack. That it starts there, because if you don't diagnose well, what ends up happening is you go get the next LinkedIn Learning and the next LinkedIn Learning and the next and the next and the next course when you haven't really properly diagnosed what do I really need? So I hope that helps.
That is indeed a fantastic strategy. So, Lizette, you guarantee promotions or career
Mhm.
acceleration in your program. So, what gives you the confidence to make that guarantee, and how is your approach different from traditional coaching?
Yeah. So all of our coaches are highly vetted. They all have their certifications, but then when they come to work with TLC, we're very picky about who we bring on board. And they go through additional training with TLC. So what makes us different from everyone else is we start with a proper quote unquote diagnosis, right? We use neuroscience-backed assessments to uncover a lot of the hidden patterns, things that you're not even aware that you're doing, that are shaping your decisions, your stress response, and also how you're showing up day to day. So within the first 30 to 45 days of working with TLC, we will know and you will know exactly what's been blocking your next level. And not only that, we'll have a tailored action plan to break through that quickly. So in reality, most of our clients get their promotion within, let's say, the first 6 months. And what we're doing at the tail end of that next 6 months is now it because in actuality, getting the promotion is kind of the easy part. I know people are going to be like, wait, no, I've been struggling with this. This is the hard part. From our point of view, that's the easy part. The hard part is once you get that promotion, you now have to shed a bunch of skills that you have had and habits and start operating at a new operating system level. So that next period of working with us is really about expanding your nervous system so that you're showing up not just for this role, but you're setting up for that next promotion. So that's one is we do a proper diagnosis, we get a proper plan. And the next piece that we do that makes us stand apart is we have quantitative results on our clients. So with the assessments that we use, our clients retake them um, kind of mid-year and then again towards the end of the program. And we are constantly measuring performance. How are you meeting your goals? And it's not just qualitative of, oh, I feel like I've got more executive presence. It is quantitative. So people are actually able to see their results and we're able to see it. So that's the second piece. And so the reason that we can offer the guarantee is one, we've done this with hundreds of people, but two, we do a proper diagnosis so that we have a set plan. And I'll give you an example. I had a client who came to me who was working with another coach, but found, "Well, Lizette, what you're doing is just, it's so different from anything else. I feel like I need this." And so they came on board, and within the first 30 days, Ezekiel, I was able to diagnose, quote unquote diagnose, right? What was going on in their leadership and what they needed to address. And their mind was completely blown. They're like, I've been working with this coach, with this other coach for about a year, and we haven't even touched this, but this is exactly what I need. So our the way that we operate eliminates the guesswork, because oftentimes you can work with a client for 6 months and you're kind of guessing, okay, this is where we need to go. We take the guesswork out of it. We because of the unique assessments and methods that we have, we're able to really get an action plan and then start working that plan, and we're measuring results along the way so that we know if you're putting in the work, we can guarantee that you're going to get to your destination. And so our guarantee is that you get there. Otherwise, we continue to work with you until you do.
Okay, that was an interesting story there. So, can you share a story of a client who felt completely stuck and how your framework helped them move into a promoted role?
Yeah. So I had I'll give you just the client that I was working with today. So I had a client who came who was operating in kind of a director level capacity, but wanted to get into that VP level role. But they didn't have the habits that they needed to operate at that level. They were very tactical, not very strategic. So we did our assessment, and within the first 30 days, we were able to identify one very high level of perfectionistic tendencies, which were slowing down decision making. And we could see that in the executive function test that we did for this person. So the decision making, the executive decision making process was super slow. Um, and there were a lot of perfectionistic tendencies there. So we were able to put a plan together, Ezekiel, that within the first 6 months, they not only started um, losing some of those perfectionistic tendencies, they have now completely flip flopped. They're very strategic. They've now been able to step into not just that VP level role, but um, that higher role, really to position themselves into the C-suite. And so that is something, within the first 6 months that happened. We're still working together because now we're establishing those habits to set her up for that future growth. But that's one example, and that's just from today's work. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, for someone in an individual contributor role who aspires to get a leadership role in an organization, so what's the first rewire they should focus on?
Yeah. So, the first thing I'd focus them on is to get really clear on your goals. What is it that you're looking for? Is it the promotion? Um, and if it is, why? Why that particular promotion? Because oftentimes people may not be looking for. Sometimes people are looking for the title and the compensation to match. Sometimes people are looking for the challenge. Like, I need that next challenge to keep myself engaged in work. So the first step would be to identify what's your goal in that promotion and what's the motivation that you have for getting to that next step. So that would be the first thing that I would outline is really try and understand what it is that you're trying to get to and why, because that will tell you where, not just this next step, but what are your steps beyond that? And that can also help identify what are some of the, if there are skills that you need, gap skills, that you're not guessing at what you need. We need to take a longer term view other than just my next step. So I want to take a look at not just your next step, but what's the step after that and the one after that. Like, what's the long term goal here for you in this promotion? So what I would ask your dear listener is, let's assume you have that next promotion. What does that really do for you? And answer that question, and that's going to tell you what your next steps are. So that would be kind of the first thing that I would do. The second thing would be, again, to reflect on where are you doing really well? What are the skills and the gifts that you have? And this may be asking other people around you. You get compliments. Oftentimes we get compliments and we're like, oh, yeah, thanks. Or that was good. Those compliments are things that you do uniquely well. Make sure you understand what your unique differentiators are and don't just shy over them. Like, really highlight them, write them down, keep a list of them so that you know how other people are seeing your strengths. And then where are your growth edges? And having both of those, along with where do I really want to get to, allows you to start to piece together a plan of what might get you there. And when you do that work, it might demonstrate to you what exactly you need to do as opposed to guessing of like, oh, I need this certification or that certification. Because oftentimes we go straight to what we think is a solution before, like I said, properly diagnosing where does someone want to go.
Amazing. So, in your view, why do so many high-performing environments, especially in tech, still treat burnout as an individual problem rather than a systemic one?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. It is treated almost as an individual issue. And part of the dilemma there, Ezekiel, is that every person, when you walk into you know, let's say the tech space and you're working with different engineers, you ever notice that different personalities handle stress very differently? And it's because we're all made up differently. So there is a particular assessment that we use that helps people identify what is their resilience in a particular organization. And the reason that we give this is because oftentimes people, some subset of the population of people will thrive. So they're almost like cactus, right? Or let's say, let's use the analogy of a weed. Um, something that you don't want in your garden, right? It grows, and it doesn't matter what you do. The thing, you can take a dandelion, for example. A dandelion can grow just about anywhere. You put a dandelion in beautiful, fertile ground, and it's going to bloom and it's going to go crazy. But if you put a dandelion in like mediocre material, guess what? It's still gonna bloom and grow. That's why it's a weed, right? We often well, it's also tea, but um, it does have purposes. But that property of the dandelion is very unique to the dandelion, right? It can grow in beautiful medium. It can grow in harsh environments. Take an orchid. Now, an orchid, very beautiful, also another, flower, but that orchid needs the exact right environment to thrive. It needs the moisture. It needs the right amount of sunlight, not too much, not too little. If it gets the wrong environment, it's gonna wither, right? If it gets way too much water, if it gets not enough water, it's gonna wither. So each of us is different in that respects. So some people are like the dandelion. You put them in an environment and they're going to thrive. It doesn't matter. Other people need to be in the right environment. And so we have an assessment that actually pulls that out. And so that allows us to have the conversation with our clients of, is this the right medium for you? So the reason I think that organizations treat burnout, don't treat burnout systemically is because not everyone demonstrates that they're burning out, because you have some people who are like that dandelion. They're far more resilient than someone who is like the orchid. And it's nothing, good or bad about the dandelion or the orchid, but if you need that right environment, you're going to bloom like mad. So it's about having that honest conversation with someone of, do we need to look at your environment, right? And having that conversation. And so it's more nuanced than just systemically treating everyone that, okay, everyone's dealing with burnout.
That is indeed an interesting illustration, Lizette. So, if a listener could only take one thing away from our conversation to protect their well-being and accelerate their career, to tell us, what should it be?
Yeah. Ooh. Um, if you only take one thing away from this conversation that Ezekiel and I have been having, I hope it's that you listen a little bit deeper to your body, to the messages your body is sending you. Whether that message is, hey, I have a headache, or my back hurts, or, my leg is stiff, that is your body talking to you. And if you don't pay attention, there's going to be a penalty to pay. When we're younger, we're we're like the dandelion, very resilient, right? But as we get older and we ignore what our body's telling us, that will eventually have a penalty to pay. And you don't want to pay that penalty. So listen earlier.
Hmm. Wow, that's a great one. So, part of the theme of this podcast is centered around innovation. So, for that reason, there is a common question I like to ask every guest that I interview on this podcast before we wrap up this session. So, tell us, Lizette, what does innovation mean to you, and how does it relate to your work in the context of leadership development that blends neuroscience into its core?
Yeah. Innovation for me is doing something differently, um, to get an outcome that you might not have expected. And the way that we express innovation is uh, we blend neuroscience with performance and rewiring of people so that you can get to that next leadership stage. And we even have an assessment. I'm happy to give it away to your listeners for free. An assessment that will help you on all of these things that we've just talked about, to assess, where are you in terms of leadership stages? Where are you personally in that vein? But that's how we innovate, right? We do coaching, but we do it a little bit differently. We use neuroscience to help map a action plan for someone, and then we work that plan. And not only do we work it, we also take performance metrics so that we can demonstrate return on investment to clients tangibly, quantitatively. And that, I think, is something that resonates with your audience, right? Because if you can't measure it, how do you know you've made any progress? And so for us, that is very deeply, we kind of wanted to turn coaching on its head, because oftentimes coaching, yes, you get to your goal, but it's very qualitative. And so we wanted to be able to measure it and guarantee growth for people.
Fantastic. So, finally, tell us, where can our listeners contact you to learn more about your work or take your leadership state check assessment to learn more about their own readiness for advancement?
Yeah, so you can connect with me wherever you are in the world. I am on LinkedIn, which is the tech hallway where we can gather, and it's really the leadership equalizer, right? Nearly every professional is on LinkedIn. I'm on there. I post a couple times a week, so feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. We have a website. It's trustandleadership.com. And as far as the assessment, I am happy to provide you the link, and you can put it in the show notes if you like for our folks to have access to, and
Yeah,
it's totally free.
yeah, I sure will add the links for listeners to be able to contact you on social medias and also to take the assessment tests. So, Lizette, it's been a really awesome conversation with you today, and I'm excited to have you on the show.
Thank you, Ezekiel. It's been wonderful. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I hope your listeners have enjoyed this and take some action away from today.